Today, my guest is Rogan Vleming, who is Vice President, Data and Analytics at Conexus Credit Union. Welcome to the podcast, Rogan.
Thank you, Rutger.
Now, we always start with that very important question, and here it is for you. Why, Rogan, do you do what you do?
All right. Well, I guess what do I do? So I lead data and analytics at Conexus Credit Union, and working in a small organization, it's a broad responsibility. So I have machine learning, I have AI, I have data engineering, I have business intelligence, and also data governance. So a full set of responsibilities. And so from why at a credit union? How did I get here? I think it started with Uncle Scrooge. When I was a child, I really liked Uncle Scrooge comics, and I was a big fan of the Money Bin. I was into that, and so it seems kind of fitting that I ended up working in financial services, given that early background. And then I think the other sort of key turning point for me was probably my education. My undergrad was mechanical engineering. And I think from mechanical engineering, I really got a love for dynamic systems and control systems, and so building things and making things sort of work from a process point of view. And so when I went into financial services, I think early on I figured out I liked decisioning frameworks and I liked being able to predict the future. And so I remember, I think it was on my co-op work term, I ended up doing like a call center capacity planning model. And that was something that was a lot of fun. It was complicated, but it was really valuable because it let you schedule the call center more efficiently. And this is many years ago, but I think those kind of projects really resonated with me. And when I think about my banking career, I went from predictive modeling and machine learning into optimization and optimization frameworks. And so you can say, well, there's campaign optimization, there's pricing optimization, there's treasury management and asset liability management and sort of forecasting that out and managing that. So all those things kind of resonated with me because it's like complicated systems and optimizing them and making them work and ultimately making money.
Yeah. So you already had an early passion as a kid for financial services.
I want to earn money and I'm risk adverse. I think that's kind of the other thing, right? You don't want the Beagle Boys breaking into your money bin, right? So
And then also you said you like to predict the future and use systems to do that. Yeah, that sounds very, very much like the Rogan that I know, and we've worked together in the past. You're very analytical. You like to solve things. So that's a great passion to have. Now, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to apply that passion?
So it's interesting because I think coming from working at Scotiabank for many years to working at a smaller credit union, the things change a little bit. And so what I would say is part of the fun is how do I get the value of a big bank decisioning framework in a small institution with a lower budget and less resources? And I think there's fun in figuring that out. A lot of the work that I have been doing has really been around driving data maturity. It's trying to get the different business areas on the same definition. So that's like a data governance thing. It's trying to get people using the data and having self-serve data, and then having the confidence that it's the right data for the decisioning. So probably more work on building up data infrastructure, maybe relative to some of the more sophisticated models that I've done in the past, either in my time at Scotiabank or at Simon Kucher.
Helping actually make data-driven decisions and make sure that data can be trusted. That is very important. Now, how do your internal customers, that your colleagues, talk about that when you help them with that and they get that insight? What do they say?
When you get to a working framework for decisioning that works, that drives business value, I think everybody's really excited and there's a lot of positive feedback. I think sometimes the journey of getting there is there's a lot of change management. The leadership may have the vision of we want to do this, but not everybody in the organization is necessarily feeling safe or secure. And so I think you go through that aspect of change management of what's in it for me. And so when I'm working with folks in the business lines, and there's analytical folks in the business lines as well, it's like, how do we help you become more efficient? You're making their better, and you're potentially opening them up to more interesting work by automating some of the things that maybe are more mundane in the work that they're doing. That's how I've typically approached it, is to try and focus on the shiny things that we can get out of this by automating some of the spreadsheet work and things like that. Can we automate that? Can we set it up in a safer way? And the safety aspect has been really big. You want role-based access. Like, you shouldn't really have more information than you need to do your job. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you're building a model, you don't really care who the individual is. You just
Mhm.
know the individual from a modeling point of view. You don't need
Yeah.
to know that individual is Rutger. You just need to know, what does Rutger typically do, and can I predict what he'll do in the future? So it's
Yeah.
really trying to sort of remove the PII data when it's not absolutely needed, and then making sure
Yeah.
that there's role-based access. Um, and that there's a governance framework, and that the leadership is involved in the data governance. So it's not just governance for the sake of governance. It's like we have our
Yeah.
stakeholders involved. So that's been a big part of it as well, in terms of, what do I spend my time doing? I wish I could spend my time doing more modeling and just focusing on AI,
Yeah.
but I think it's a balance. And if you don't build the infrastructure, then you're not going to be very successful, and things are going to fall apart. So focus on automation, focus on the right set of security, and proper data access protocols.
I also think what you said is very important, is that change management. You can build the perfect mousetrap, but if our people are not willing to use it and you can't convince them of using it, it's still not very valuable. So that is a very important piece that sometimes gets a little bit overlooked, but it's great that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Now, I like to do this thing called future thinking. We don't know what the future is going to bring. As much as you would like to predict the future, we can think of a possible future. So if we think 10 years out, how do you see the credit union banking landscape change? What does the world look like 10 years from now?
Yeah, 10 years is a long time. And when you sort of look at, like, every week we have new AI advancements and better models and smarter models and models that are smarter than PhDs. And so I think there's a lot that's changing. I think one of the things that kind of scares me is the speed of quantum, and how quantum is evolving. Like, everybody's focused on AI, unless people are talking about quantum computing is like progressing quickly as well. And
Yep.
we're not that far away from it being sort of a lot more useful. And so, when you think about encryption, and it's like, well, okay, well, what was safe and secure before is probably not safe and secure tomorrow.
Yep.
When I worked at Scotiabank, we actually worked on currency paths, and we used quantum computing on currency paths. So, if you're converting, currencies, you can do it directly. You can do CAD to USD, or you could go CAD to Euro and then back to USD. And there's potentially arbitrage there. And so
Yep.
quantum's really good for it, because it's combinations and permutations. So I think, quantum is definitely something, I think, from a sort of a future state. And then I think about the consumer experience as well. We're watching agentic AI, and we have agents for this and agents for that. And so I think about the work we used to do on pricing and personalized pricing and dynamic pricing. In the future, is it going to be direct to consumer, or is it the consumer's agent and
Yep.
the financial institution's agent that are duking it out and negotiating? You just wonder, what's the direct communication versus what's an agent going out to research to say, hey, can I find the best mortgage rate for you, consumer? I really wonder how the pricing dynamic will shift with agentic AI. Future wise, like, I think everybody is always like trying to forecast that, like, branches are a thing of the past. And I guess my view is branches may change, but I think that physical presence is very important for peace of mind. I look back to my time working with Tangerine, and even they had kiosks across the country. So physical presence won't go away. It'll probably not be transactional, in the sense of you don't need to go to your branch to do transactions, but there still probably needs to be a presence, and that there's somewhere you can go. So probably fewer smaller branches that are more advice based. And from a credit union point of view, in Canada, we're seeing a lot of mergers, and one of the things that's driving that is technology. So we need to have the scale to be able to invest in technology, to have the top rate digital experience. I think that consolidation trend will continue. So you need to invest in technology, and you need a certain level of scale for that technology.
So lots of elements there. So quantum computing obviously is going to have a big
Yep.
impact both on cryptography and potentially breaking it, but also anything that we could do with computers. Any
Yeah,
computational
like you
power is going to be really
think of the
powerful.
scale of the problem and things that would, you would never solve before because
Yeah,
you didn't have the computing power to solve it. Suddenly
yeah,
that becomes accessible. And so
yeah,
some of the math problems that were like, well, you could spend years running that process,
yeah,
suddenly that's now in reach. And so I think, people worry about, you know, saving the data for when the quantum computing becomes available. So if you
yeah,
think about a spy versus spy, it's like, well,
yeah.
I'm going to get that data today. I may not be able to crack it today, but sometime in the future, I will be able to crack it.
And then also the idea of agentic AI and my personal AI assistant agent talking to a financial institution's AI assistant agent, maybe even using quantum level
Yeah.
computing to sort of say, hey, let me just like in literally seconds reach out to five, six, seven, eight lenders and see who has the best rate. And then let me just compute that and then go, hey, I think you should actually refinance your mortgage here because I checked the whole market like literally in seconds.
We talk about search engine optimization. Generative engine optimization is now becoming a thing. So it's not how you show up in search. It's how, when you ask Chat GPT, does it actually reference your institution and the material at your institution? So, I
Yeah,
mean, that has been in relatively short order. Like in the last 12 months, we've been going from it's all search engine optimization to,
yeah,
well, how is ChatGPT answering questions? Do they reference your institution at all? And so we're having to rethink. There's so much work on search engine optimization, but that whole
yeah.
world has shifted.
What can we do today to get ready for that possible future that you were painting? So
So I
what are
mean,
those
from
things?
from from my perspective, a lot of it is like, do I have a proper data view of the member? Can I put all the pieces together, and
Yeah.
I have a clear view of the member and all their pieces? Like, do I have
Hmm.
proper entity? Like,
Yeah.
I think about things like that as being really critical. The more complicated things get, let's at least do the basics right. Let's make sure we
Yeah.
know who Rutger is. We know all the things he holds. We have a
Yeah.
unified profile for him. We don't have like Rutger with one profile over here and another profile over there. So I
Yeah.
think that is part of it. And then everybody talks about the AI pilots and all the sexy things,
Yeah.
but it's like the data that goes into the AI. It's the same as a very simple logistic regression model. It's
Yeah.
garbage in, garbage out. So
That's it.
what are you doing to make the data that you're using in your AI to be credible and validated? And so to me, that is something I've been working on for the last 3 years
Yeah.
from a data governance perspective. But the more we sort of go down the agentic path and the more we use AI, I think that quality of information becomes even more important. So I think that is a big thing in terms of preparing. And then I think about development from an IT perspective. A
Yeah.
lot of times we put systems in place and it's not data first. It's like we put the
Right.
system in place and then we try and integrate the data. And I think if you're really building things smart and
Yeah.
wisely for scalability, you actually want to start when you're building something, you want to start with a vision of how is that data going to work and am I going to get the right views that I need for the agentic AI? And so architecturally, there's probably some shifts in thinking that need to happen.
Well, that's probably a good point to wrap it up on. So get your data house in order to get ready for this future with, I don't know, quantum computing, agents talking to agents. Very interesting. Thank you very much, Rogan, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Rutger.
And until next time, choose to be curious.